Okay, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. We are thrilled to have our ELD specialists and lead teachers today. You have joined the Empowering and Engaging Families Utilizing the Parent Caregiver Guide for English Language Development ELD session today. This session will share best practices for family engagement. We will explore the Parent Caregiver Guide for ELD, develop activities to engage families in understanding the ELD standards, and take a look at some of the research around this topic. I share some links in the morning via email, and we recommend that you open these files in advance to avoid any technology lags or glitches due to the amount of participants that we have in the session today. We will also share these links along the session, so don't worry if you didn't get the email for any reason. So my name is Esl Stocks. I serve as an SDPI ESL Title III consultant. I'm honored to be the tech support today for two of our amazing support team trainers. So Alicia Das is an ESL lead teacher at Harnett County Schools, and Dr. Tim Sims is the Director of Federal Programs at Hickory City Schools. They will share more information about themselves in the next slides. Thank you again for joining us. The recording has started. Tim and Alicia, please lead the way.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Okay, good. I can see if I was muted or not. As you will see, we have a link to our presentation at the top of the screen, the bit.ly. There's also links to our some resources you'll be using later in our presentation. And as Satli mentioned, we ask that you open those now. Also, we would like you to post your name, your title, your public school unit, and then we would like you to finish the sentence frame. One thing I want to walk away from today is because so that we know what you're looking to walk away from, we work really hard to try to make sure we meet your needs. And then finally, in case you are unfamiliar with WebEx, which I doubt that is the case with this crowd, but we just want to, at the bottom of your screen, typically, it's not for me, I don't know why, you have your unmute and mute button. We will be asking you to share some information. Start video if you'd like for us to see you as you share your information. Raise and lower your hand because we'll ask for you to participate. And if you want to participate, you can raise your hand. Share reactions throughout our presentation. And then we are going to be asking you to put things in the chat like we have already. So that is how you access the chat. All right, as Satli said, I'm Tim Sims. I'm Director of Federal Programs for Hickory City Schools. I have been working with English learners for over 30 years. I can't believe I can say that. I went into teaching because I wanted to make a difference in the world. I wanted to make a difference in kids' lives, and that is still why I serve. And I am so excited to be here with my colleagues who are all here with the right heart for making the lives of children different. And I'll give it to Alicia.
I'm Alicia Das, one of the ESLA teachers for Harnett County Schools. I've also been an educator for over 30 years and with Harnett County for over 30 years. I love it now more than I did then, I think. And I've also served on the EL support team since its inception. And I've always had a passion for out-of-the-box strategies. And I've been actually doing some action research on that for years. And that's one of the reasons why I love coming to the Growing Success for ML's conference every year, because that's what we're all about, is looking at those out-of-the-box ideas. And that's what we're about today. And we're so excited to be with our colleagues and exchange ideas. That's going to be the crux of the day.
All right. Our final session of the week is dedicated to ESL specialists and lead teachers. You hold a very special place in our hearts because we walk among you. You're our colleagues. We've walked in your shoes and know what a challenging role it is. But also we believe your role is crucial in helping navigate all that we have been sharing this week. We're excited about spending time with you and learning from you today. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Alicia.
Not me.
Oh, okay. Thanks so much for sharing your details with us in the chat so that we can get to know you a little better and address your specific needs. We'll share a few of your comments, and we'd like a few of you to open your mics and share your thoughts as well. As we're reading chat comments, raise your hand if you're interested in sharing your response with the group, and we'll ask you to open your mics in just a minute. So Alicia and Satli, do you have?
Yes. I didn't take down the name, but several names, but several people were just wanting to find out ways to improve communication with families. And one said to grow in our approaches, but not just in educational or academic ways, but also community, social services, the social emotional needs of the kids. Those were some of the ones that I saw earlier. We have people from all over the state, that's for sure.
Yes, I saw like Caldwell, Dare, Ash, Harnett, your hometown, your home place,
Yes.
Cumberland. I saw IDYL school. So I'm just really excited to see. There are just so many.
Yes.
Durham and Wake.
Sampson County, Dare County, we have lots of charter schools.
We also have interesting titles. We have EL instructional coaches, other types of specialists that we don't have in our county. So this is exciting, getting some ideas there.
Oh, and I see one of our colleagues on the EL support team. Hi, Lori.
Yay.
So it's a mixture for sure.
All right.
A lot of people wanting resources. So so far it looks like we're going to be able to meet the needs of most requests.
And at this time, I don't see anybody who has their hand up to share. So
yeah, I don't see it either.
And anyone can open a mic at any time today. We're colleagues and we definitely want the exchange.
Hi, good morning. This is Karen Morrison, Onslow County Schools. I'm just looking forward to getting more ideas of how to engage the families. I know this, we have grown a lot of the capacity at our school, collaborating with Title I and have been able to provide bilingual seminars to the parents this last year. And, we do a fairly good job of communicating, but I think, just kind of wanted to, the parents are really interested in being able to support a lot of the academics, but I also would like to have resources on how to support the families with social services too. I think that's always a need and that the families bring to us. So, and I look forward to the discussion.
Yeah. We saw your comment earlier. Yeah. And we hope to be able to answer all of those questions. That's our goal for today for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
okay, so I'm in a different setup than I've been all week, so I'm like stumbling through finding my way. Here are our fundamentals for today's session. We want you to feel free to contribute your ideas, questions, and ponderings via the chat box, raise a hand or open mic through our Padlet and or breakout sessions. There will be icons in the bottom right hand corner of your slide. These are what they look like, and hyperlinked as well. We hope to acknowledge the benefits of family engagement and examine its challenges by seeking solutions from an asset-based perspective. We want you to feel free to create an artifact that will allow us an opportunity to reflect, apply, and remember what we learn. And we want you to take advantage of the conference office hours this afternoon at 3:30. We hope to see you there.
And also, Tim and I have been working together for many, many years, presenting across the state as well. We've always had a hidden agenda for our participants, so today is no different. We've got a hidden agenda for you today as well. We want you to come to the session prepared to relax, release, and rejuvenate yourselves. We know that it's summertime, but we're still working and planning for next school year. So we're here to be your supporters, your counselors, your advisors, your therapists, whatever we need to be today. But most importantly, we just want to be your facilitators because you're the specialist, you're the leads. A lot of this is resting on your shoulders, and we know how much you already know. And you could probably lead today's session, but we're just going to facilitate those discussions and guide a little bit. And so we hope to affirm you, and maybe there will be some discoveries as well. We also want you to share the love with us. We hope that you will be tweeting today via hashtag NCELD22. Any ideas from any of the week's conference sessions, please continue to share. And finally, as our thank you to you, at the end, we're going to share some virtual door prizes, and we hope that they will also help you in your pursuits as ESL specialists and leads and whatever you might be, instructional coaches, ESL teachers. There are some ESL teachers with us here today too, as we empower and engage our ML families. So we are going to get started, and we felt like you wanted to go ahead and be in your materials, have all of your tabs open. Some of you are here for the first time today, and we would love for you to raise your hands. Zotli and Tim are going to kind of recognize you, not out loud, but we want to make sure if there are new people in the audience, we want to make sure we're taking care of your needs too. So
Okay,
Tim and Zotli, do we have some?
2,
Yay.
3.
So just so you know, while they're counting up and looking, if you are here for the first time today, every session is going to be recorded. All of the materials are going to be available, so you will be able to benefit from the entire week of the conference. But welcome, and it's so good to have you with us today. We're going to make sure that everybody has everything that they need, and we will review just a little bit for those of you who have been here. So if you didn't get a chance to open your material links, we're going to give you an opportunity to do that now. So first, you can check your email. Zotli sent an email to everyone this morning with all of the links to our presentation today. So you could start there, or you can, you can also find the links in our PowerPoint. So the PowerPoint has been posted in the chat box, I think, Zotli. And also you can use the URL on the slide here. And it is bit.ly/engage families day 4. It's hard for me to see that little link there, but engage families day 4. Tim and Zotli, correct me if I'm wrong on any of the information I'm giving out. All right. And then I'm having difficulty connecting. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Because my screen is not allowing me to see my my screen at all. It says reconnecting. So give me 1 second and it's gone now. So I'm going to start back over. Sorry about that. So today's documents are linked on the slides as you need them. But if you will click on the A artifact icon, you can go into your artifact. The Padlet icon will take you into your Padlet. And if you are a first timer, click on the notebook. It will take you into a forced copy of your notebook that we're going to go through in just a little bit. But you can go ahead and open that. And those are the items that you'll need today. Your notebook, Padlet, the artifact, and the parent caregiver guide. And that icon is also there for you. So you can also get your materials for today from the notebook. So Tim is going to take us through that. We're going to kind of go on a little guide. The tips for your notebook are there near the front of your notebook. It'll explain how you import links. You can go for lots of things like even sticky notes and all. We're going to show you in just a second, but those are the tips. The next page, Tim. Thank you. There's also an artifact page. We're going to guide you there later for empowering, engaging ML families. This is where you will can open the link to your artifact, and also once you create your own personalized copy, you're going to import that URL here so you can have it for future reference and for sharing, like Tim, next slide. We would love for you to share your artifact through the hashtag #GoOpenNC. That can be found on page 6 of your notebook. And you could share it via 2 groups. Those were listed on that page in your notebook. Yep, those 2 groups there can be, you can share your artifact, your ideas with others across the state. And then next, there will be a place for you to make notes today when you come for your daily office hours. Maybe you put down someone's email address or a link that you want to refer to later. And then finally, I believe there are some annotation tools, and they will look like the following: smiley faces, arrows, tabs, ways for you to actually keep up with the information from today. And then if you have any questions, Tim, you can click to the next slide. Please just put your questions in the chat box for us. So we're going to give everybody like a couple of seconds to kind of feel acclimated, have all of your tabs open, and that would be the PowerPoint presentation, the artifact for today, your notebook for copying your artifact link and sharing with others later, and your parent guide and the Padlet. Okay, so hopefully everybody's ready. If not, you have plenty of time during the activities today to get there. They'll be linked at the bottom of your slides. Thanks for your help on that one, Tim. And sorry for the technology glitches.
All right, and now we're going to talk about our purpose for today. Our purpose today is to make sure we collaborate to find ways to empower and engage every family. Our purpose is grounded in the research and work of Dr. Stephen Constantino, whom you will get to know a little later. During this session, we will explore the Parent Caregiver Guide for ELD to discover its contents and potential support in engaging every multilingual learner or ML family. Many of you already know that NCDPI has made the shift from English learner to multilingual learner, ML. NCDPI will be using this asset-based term to avoid labeling students in terms of a language that they are still learning, acknowledge that students' first language and cultures are a strength, and reiterate the importance of literacy and proficiency in multiple languages. For policy and legislation purposes, NCDPI will maintain the term English learners. For all of the purposes, NCDPI will begin to use the term multilingual learner. NCDPI has shared a letter regarding this shift in a language to help school districts start conversations around this asset-based language. We have linked it at the bottom of the slide, so you can go ahead and look at multilingual learner bit.ly signed letter for PSUs. You will see both terms used in the ELD Standards documents this week. Satley, will you share the link in the chat box, which you probably already have done because you're ahead of us all week?
Is there.
And we will give you time to develop strategies using the 5 principles and the information and resources found in the Parent and Caregiver Guide, strategies that will help you engage every ML family in the academic life of their children.
And to help us achieve our purpose for today, we want to explain the significance of each of the words that we've chosen for our presentation. Engage every family. And yes, there has been yet another shift recently in education, and that shift has been from the term parent involvement to family engagement. And parent has always implied like those in leadership roles or responsibility roles, the mother, the father, a guardian, caregiver. But we know that a lot of our families, there are multiple mixtures of those in the lives of our students that we serve. And in some cases, combinations of these exist or they simply don't exist at all. Also, if we only focus on one or two or few people in the lives of students, we're not using all the resources that are available to us to support the family. Family, however, includes parents, guardians, caregivers, but it also includes that extension beyond just those leadership roles. It could be brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, grandparents, community members, people like pastors or coaches. And it's often those who have the stronger insights and more influence on our students. And that's what we're discovering in Harnett County when we go beyond we get outside of the box of just the parents or caregivers. Also, the older term involvement implied us doing things for or to our families, like inviting them to a meeting, providing food, flyers, and information. But engagement implies doing with our families, like having parents or family members actually plan events with us. In our county this year, for the first time in a particular school, the families actually planned the event. We had fathers crying at the event, because they felt more visible, they felt a part, they felt honored. So it's finding those out of the box ways to make sure that we are engaging with the families. Examples could be where they have opportunities to share their culture, their expertise, coming in to volunteer, reading in front of the classroom, making them more visible, a part of our school culture. And Tim's going to dig deeper with that. And of course, the word every implies all. And this has been a challenge for us, especially during COVID. It's not just those parents who are engaged already, but the families of all of our EL/ML students. And that implies more effort on our part. We have to initiate the relationships. We have to include every member and beyond. It implies going outside of those typical boxes. It's being innovative in our approaches. And just like Karen said earlier in the chat box, she wants those ideas. And that's what we hope to exchange today. And I know that we're facing challenges. There may be some challenges we share today, but it's going to be in an asset-based lens. Assuming that there is always a good reason for a particular action or behavior on the basis of a family member or a parent, that there's always a good reason they're not doing X, Y, or Z. And so we wanted to kind of set this precedent for our day because we know we can with you guys. Engaging every family implies finding meaningful, out-of-the-box ways to connect, build trust, and maintain a genuine two-way communication with our families, their communities, and students. So we're going to find ways to engage every family. Tim?
All right. So as we begin our work, we want to start by reflecting on the following questions. What do we, as a school community, receive when we engage every family? What do our families receive when we engage every family? And what are our current strategies for engaging every family?
And your artifact for our session today is actually going to be a pre and post reflection on those questions. So we'd like for you to open your artifact now, and you can do that one of multiple ways. You can get the artifact document via your notebook. It's on page 11. Or you can just click on the link displayed here with the URL, the shortened URL, or you can click on the icon in the bottom right corner. The important thing to remember that it opens as a forced copy. Tim's going to demonstrate. So you will need to make a copy of the artifact and personalize it, of course. If you'll just add your name in the parentheses at the top of the page in the title, add your name, and you can put ESL Specialist / leader, leader or ESL lead for the session that you're in. And thanks for doing that for us, Tim. And the most important thing is that you copy the URL for your document. And you can do that by clicking on the share button in the top right corner of your document and copying that link, or you can copy the URL directly from above. And then Tim's going to show you how to go back into your notebook and paste it there on the artifact page, which for you in your notebook, if you're using an ESL Specialist notebook, it's page 17. If you're using an ESL teacher notebook, I don't know, I think it's page 11, I can't remember, but it's somewhere in there, and that would be on your Empowering and Engaging Families page. So make sure you insert your link there. Also, please share your link with us if you would like for us to learn from you.
Hey, Alicia, the
yes.
email you added for me on the screen is a mix. It's a mashup, and so it's not going to work. It's my personal email and my work email kind of mashed up. So actually, it's smstmthy@gmail.com, and I put it in the chat.
That's what I do. I mash things up. And we put it in the chat and we'll correct it on the presentation. But share your link with us. Go to your share icon at the top of your document and put our emails in to share. And please share with your colleagues across the state in #GoOpenNC groups. We're going to pause, give you time to breathe, and open your artifact document. It looks like the document on the page. When we engage every family, and at the top, there will be your pre-reflection questions, and at the bottom are your post-reflection questions. Satli, do we have any questions in the chat about the artifact?
I think you're going to address this question in the next slide. It's a question
Perfect.
about what are we doing in the artifact itself. So right now,
Yep.
it's just make sure you have open, make your copy, and link this copy to the notebook, right?
Yep, we are taking it slow for our first day, folks, and we just want to make sure you are in your document. Okay, so for the next 3 minutes, Tim and I are going to reflect with you on the questions at the top of your page in the pre-reflection questions section. What do we
cannot
receive?
find the artifact document.
Hey,
Where
if
do you
you-
get that?
It's just link in the chat. If you click on the link that I just shared, it should open a Google Doc.
Or you can click on any of the links on the slide that Tim is showing you if you're in the presentation. If not, you can use the chat box. And the little icon in the bottom right corner, the A, will also take you there if you're in the presentation.
Great, thank you.
Thanks for the question. Okay, so we're going to begin our morning reflection as we collaborate together. And we're going to be answering these questions. When we engage every family, what do we as educators receive? What do they as families receive? And what are your current strategies for engaging every family? I think all of us have had a heightened awareness of that through the COVID years. So it's going to be interesting to see what ideas you have and have gained through our past couple of years. So for the next 3 minutes, we'll see you back here in 3 minutes. Just type your responses in your document, and then we'll come back and collaborate. Tim and I will be reflecting with you. Thanks. We'll give everybody about 30 seconds to finish out your thoughts, and then we'll gather back. All right. We're going to bring everybody back together, finish out your thoughts. And Tim is Tim.
So if you would like to share your thoughts, first of all, the Go Open opportunity is there to share through Go Open. But if you want to start posting some of your thoughts to chat, or if anybody wants to raise their hand and share out something they feel they would like to contribute, we're happy to take some people.
It's our time to collaborate.
So Wendy talks about starting with a Meet the Teacher. She also uses QR codes and uses talking points and holds an ESL parent night.
Those of you who are trying to get to your artifact, if you're in the presentation, you can go to any slide and click on the A and just answer the 3 questions at the top from your current perspective. We would love to have some hands raised and some people sharing out. We're colleagues. We know a lot of us know each other. We would love to hear from you, and your colleagues would love to hear from you too.
And we really appreciate, and we didn't mention this either yet, posting ideas to the chat, because one of the things we will give you as a door prize is the chat box. So all the ideas that go into the chat are going to be archived and then linked to this presentation, so you'll have a copy of it afterwards.
Trying to find the name. Mayor Kay says that we get a better understanding of family needs, more support, and student engagement ultimately. A better understanding. Go ahead, Tim.
No, I love that people really focus a lot on what we receive. Like they're talking about, we receive trust from families. We receive more commitment from parents when we do this. We receive relevant information about the student's academic and social development. I mean, thanks. I really do appreciate it, because what we often don't think about when we think about engaging every family is it's work, but we get a lot out of it.
And Jamie says a better understanding of the assets. That's what we're about today, that asset-based way of thinking. The assets brought by parents and families and of the needs that they have. Our parents finally feel like they have a place at the table, right? And they can see themselves in the school building. Great ideas, guys. And continue to share. Continue to share. Tim or Sattli, did you see anything else that we need to bring attention to?
There's a lot there that is just really positive, but I don't see anybody with their hand up, so we're going to keep going if that's all right.
Absolutely.
So what we would like you to do as we go through this morning is really to keep these questions to guide your thinking throughout the session. What do we receive? What do they receive? And then what are our strategies? Be prepared to reflect on the questions again at the end of the presentation. That will be the last part of your artifact.
Again, if you're struggling with your artifact, we'll get you there eventually.
We will now explore the Parent Caregiver Guide for English Language Development. We will take a look at its purpose, how it's organized, and give you time to explore the guide so you can begin to brainstorm its various uses, possible audiences, and any questions that you might have. So this is our first strategy, right? Using this guide to help parents engage. All right, Alicia.
And so to do that, we just want to make sure that your guide is open, okay? That's going to be a tab that you're going to be using during this activity. If you're not there already, you're going to open a new tab by any of the offerings on the screen. So you can click on the Parent Caregiver Guide at the top of the page, the bit.ly Parent Caregiver Guide ELD, or you can click on the icon in the bottom right corner. And we did want you to know that the guide is located with your other ELD documents in the Eld Standards hub that you've seen all week. You just go to your hub, The hub link is there. Scroll down the home page until you get to the collection of ELD documents, and you just click the Parent Caregiver Guide image, and it will take you to the Parent Caregiver Guide page in the hub. You want to always go to the link for the guide from the hub so that the guide that you open will be the latest updated version with all the revisions. There are lots of revisions coming. Even based on what you give us today, things will change in the guide because we want it to be what parents need. So just click the resource link of your choice, and we'll give everybody a couple of seconds to get into the guide. Tim is there. So please tell Satli if you're having difficulty finding the guide. And Satli may have posted the link in the chat box as well. Okay. So I'll start us off by explaining the guide's purpose and how it's organized. That section right there is just going to, that Tim has up on the screen. There's a little intro at the beginning that describes the purpose of the document. It's going to answer the question, how did we get here? It gives parents a quick overview of the ELD standards, and it explains that the guide was developed in an effort to empower families and engage them in the academic life of their child. And it is K-12. It is not broken down by grade span. The first section, it's broken into 3 main sections. The first section is going to answer the question, what does it mean that my child is an English learner? It's going to explain the identification process. And when you start exploring, you're going to notice that the guide uses EL, like Tim mentioned earlier. It's used instead of multilingual learner. But if you'll make a note on page 3, it actually defines both those terms for the parents. And it actually explains that so that parents don't get confused. You said he was ML, they're saying he's EL. We're going to navigate through that change next year together. Section 2 is going to answer the question, how does my child learn English at school? So this is where it will be describing the ELD standards. And for a lot of us, if you haven't looked at the new standard information, this guide is going to be your quick reference. You're going to keep it with you at all times. And you'll see why in a few seconds. It will also explain the ESL services and other instructional supports. Section 3 is going to answer the question, how do I help my child succeed at school? And it's going to provide strategies, resources, and supports that empower families and keep them engaged, what you were asking for earlier. So we're going to dig deep. We're going to explore each section of the guide one at a time. We're going to give you ample time to explore and ask questions, brainstorm ideas, and find ways that it might actually help us empower and engage our families. So if everyone has their page open, we're going to ask you to explore each section with these questions in mind. How is the section organized? How does it answer the section question? And with whom and how can you use that section information, okay? You're going to be sharing or writing your ideas and questions in our Padlet. We're going to get you there in just a second. You'll be listing your brainstorms of ways that you can use the section, with whom you can share it, and also your questions. So there'll be 2 columns per section. We'll show you. Tim, why don't you click to the next slide? If you will now open your Padlet tab, or if it's already open, go to that Padlet tab and kind of look a little bit. This is where you're going to be putting your ideas, okay? You will just click on the plus sign under the column for the section that we're exploring, and you will add your responses there. So your tabs that need, for example, section 1, there's a column for your ideas, and section 2, section 1, the second column is a place for your questions. And that's how we'll be going through this activity together, one section at a time. Tim and Satli and I'll be scanning the Padlet for your ideas and questions, and we'll be prepared to share out, and we want you to share out as well. All right. So if you have your parent guide open and your Padlet open, you are ready for our exploration. Okay. We're going to start by exploring section number 1. If you'll go to the section 1 tab, yes, exactly. Okay. As we said before, section 1 is going to answer the question, what does it mean that my child is an English learner? We just want you to know what you're going to be looking at. You're going to be looking at the EL/ML identification process, the enter/exit criteria, the annual assessment information, status, and services. We'll meet you back here in 3 minutes as you explore. Tim, if you'll click to the next slide. So now you can begin your exploration. We'll be back here in 3 minutes and just think through these questions on the slide and respond on the Padlet.
About 30 seconds to wrap up writing down your ideas. If you don't mind contributing your ideas to the Padlet. Right now, we're working in the first 2 columns. Don't worry if you put your ideas in the other columns at the moment, because some of those would be appropriate too. Just want to kind of focus our efforts. Now it's time to gather back and share what you learned or had questions about while you were exploring. We're going to be reading some of your responses from the Padlet and look at for raised hands and recognize those of you who open your mic. While we're getting ready for our share out, we want to share some thoughts. Did you notice the graphics?
Click your slide, Tim.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Did you notice the graphics? The colorful self-explanatory icons and how they're repeated on other pages for consistency and supports for understanding the information. Also, the charts, the white space, and even the limited talk, all of these designs were intentionally incorporated for ease of use and understanding. What I do want to mention, we've had some comments about some of this language would be difficult for some of our parents, but we also need to think about the fact that we are serving all of the parents of English learners. So we have to remember that we do have parents who may not be literate in their own language, but we also have multilingual families whose parents are doctors and lawyers and well-educated. And what we want to make sure we're doing is empowering all of those people to get the most information they can to help be involved in the decision making for their children. So
I'm sorry. Also, a lot of those families who might not have education or whatever, they know big words in other ways, and these are some words that they could actually get to know and acquire just like their students. So we're going to expose everyone to the same language, everyone to the same concepts, including our own administrators who may not know some of these big words too. So it's just getting everybody on the same page and using some of our ESL strategies in the document. Visuals, white space, straight to the point, less is more. That was the intention.
all right.
At any time too, open a mic, feel free to share out any insights.
Also, we hope you had time to notice that the section covers the EL identification process from enrollment to exit. There is mention of the new term multilingual learner on page 3. A note about the new case screener on the bottom of page 4 even includes the details about declining services and not identification. The guide also describes the calculating progress and exit measures. At this time, I would like to recognize, we'll take a look at some of the questions or comments on the Padlet, and we'll look for people who have their hands raised.
And if you'll click to the next slide, Tim, that'll guide us in the discussion too. So before we share our brainstorms that we had collaborating, we're going to read some of yours. A lot of you said you could use this for parents. That would be the audience during initial access, score result meetings. Parent liaisons would be a great resource. Parents, teachers, and admins, because it gives a quick overview of everything. Absolutely. It can be a cheat sheet for all. Tim or Sotley, did you see any that stick out and anyone?
So I see a lot of questions about languages. My understanding, and Zotley can correct me if I'm wrong, is that the Spanish version will be ready this summer. And it is my understanding that at this time, Spanish is the only language that DPI is planning on providing. However, there have been discussions from other districts about potentially translating for their own use with their resources in their district. And we were hoping, for example, in my district, we have a lot of Hmong students. So we might look to see if we can get a translation completed in Hmong. And if we did, we would be willing to share. The challenge around that will be, of course, is that the intent is to continuously update these.
And a lot of you made mention of face-to-face meetings. It's important to do this. The parents have the document, but the face-to-face is important. And someone even recommended going out into their community, like at Latinx festivals, and just finding out-of-the-box ways to share the info. Anyone want to open a mic and make a comment on your observations or
I see
questions?
Stephen has his hand up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, this is a nuts and bolts thing. Just when I'm in the Padlet, I'm seeing the start of the Padlet, but I'm not seeing mine or other responses. So
All right, can you scroll? If you scroll, like if you get into a column, you can scroll that column down. On the right side of the column, there's a little.
Like we see when we're in a document.
I might be able to show it on screen.
Okay, duh. Okay,
You got it?
yeah. For some reason, I thought I must be thinking of some other one where things just like kind of popped up.
Yes.
It's an automatically scrolled.
Thank you very much for the question, because I'm sure someone else
Because
is
that helps everybody. We appreciate you, Stephen.
That's right. Thanks a lot.
Just a duh moment. Thank you.
So anybody else want to share out about section 1?
Hi,
We
this is
saw some suggestions around screencasting, which is actually something we have on a later slide.
Yep.
But yeah, we actually think that's a great idea for people to link these to your website at your school or district, and also doing ideas like screencasting for parents so that they can you can have it annotated for them. One of the ideas around the linking to your document we just want to share is that we recommend you link to the document at the DPI hub where the document gets posted, not to the document directly, because that way, if the document gets updated, you'll have the latest updates.
And you'll also have the other language translations on the hub page, for future use. So
Yes.
a couple, go ahead.
We have a
Mhm.
hand raised. Beth, you can unmute and share. I think I saw another one, but it went away. But yeah, please, Beth.
I just want to say, well done. We've needed this for a long time, a simplified explanation for our, especially beginning teachers, but our parents too. And I was just brainstorming about our schools have open house at the beginning of each year, and that would be a great opportunity to have the ESL teachers be available at these open house meetings with parents and share information at that time to have everyone on the same page.
Absolutely. This is the first time in the history of North Carolina education that we have this much support, in documents for our students, all of the ELD documents. And thanks to our consultants for that.
There's a question about parents denying services, and are there ways to approach and frame the program so parents understand the advantage? And I will say, from a personal level, when we have parents deny services, I typically follow up with them and actually provide and discuss with them the fact that the research demonstrates that it could, that their children won't make the kind of progress that will need to get them to grade level in an appropriate amount of time. And so, that's kind of like a personal follow-up we try to do. There are other people probably have ways in which they address that.
And from now on, when you have that question, you can point to it in the guide. It's like you have the answer too. What do I say to this parent? Well, you've got it in the guide. The words are there. So it's very important. They can't deny their rights, their EL status or ML status, but they can say, I don't want the pullout. And then, like Tim said, you just encourage them to continue to benefit from the services. So we're gonna again copy the chat notes. So you can also put some ideas in the chat that come to mind as we're going through this, but keep your guide tab open, your Padlet tab open, and now we're going to explore section 2.
Section 2
Tim?
is going to answer the question, how does my child learn English at school? You'll see an introduction with an explanation of ESL services. This section then describes the ELD standards, explaining the ELD standard statements, key language uses, and language expectations. The ELD standard information may be new to you as well, probably not this group, but other groups. So it will be interesting to see if it is helpful in your understanding of the standards. There's an example of the ELD standard provided, and you'll be able to see proficiency level descriptors explained here too.
You saw those pieces throughout the week in your other sessions if you were here. So next slide. If you are ready, we want you to use the same questions to guide your thinking, and please put your responses on the Padlet, your ideas and your questions. 3 minutes, we'll be back together. Tim and I will be exploring with you. Give everybody about 30 more seconds, Tim. I think. All right.
While we get ready for our share out, did you notice? Graphics come straight from the ELD standards documents with clear and precise definitions, so parents, colleagues, and community members are able to see and hear the information and the language of the standards just as multilingual educators are. And the section starts on page 9 by answering the question with an explanation of the Language Instruction Educational Program, or LIEP, and how the LIEP team helps determine the types of services multilingual learners are eligible for. It explains the EL plan and pull-out and push-in sessions. And now we will look for hands or take questions or comments from the Padlet.
Yes. For those of you that are not familiar with the new ELD standards, these icons, the big words, like narrate, analyze, I can't see them from here, but and I have not memorized them yet. But those key words, parents need to be informed about, so do students. And this document is going to give us a tool for doing that, for understanding it ourselves and for explaining to it. Tim, if you could go back one slide real quick before people share out. So for example, just letting a parent know that the ESL teachers and the content area teachers are going to be teaching their students language related to narrating their ideas, informing an audience, explaining information, arguing. Those are the types of conversations that we're going to have. And we saw some of those ideas in the Padlet already. Thanks, Tim. You can go back to slide 29. And Sattli, Tim, any hands that are raised? And then we can start sharing out from the Padlet as well.
I don't see any hands now, just a comment in the chat that this is great because it invites everyone to speak a common language.
Yes, and I'm on one of the comments in the Padlet that says to ensure consistency across the state in our explanations. Finally.
And I see some great questions about adding ideas like co-teaching to this.
Yes.
The challenge around there, this is kind of designed to be a statewide document. And so we may need to supplement with local documents based on what each local district services are provided. But I do think that, there is opportunity to include other ways or modes. For example, some schools, like not many, but some schools, some districts use two-way or transitional bilingual education as the model to serve their kids. There are different ways in which we address kids' needs.
I'm seeing a lot of comments about how it's simplified but rigorous. We're all speaking that same, federal language and understanding it. The breakdown of the key language uses would be helpful to share with our content area teachers during a PLC. That was a great idea. So as you leave today, don't forget you have this Padlet to brainstorm your ideas for next year and, for the upcoming year. Anything else, Sattli or Tim, for section 2?
I don't mean to interrupt without my hand
Please.
raised.
Yay! Okay.
In the past, there was a difference between co-teaching and push-in. And I'm questioning this because if you're co-teaching, you're co-planning with that teacher, it's very specific, but push-in looks different. Is the guide gonna break that out? Because I know sometimes in districts, this is a hot button. So I just wanted to address that since you were asking for questions.
No, yes, I think that's a great question. And I think, for us as educators, that is a great conversation to have, right? Like that is absolutely something we need to be having. That gets a little challenging when we're writing something for parents because parents may not really understand the difference between co-teaching and push-in to the level of detail that we're having the conversation as educators. So
Okay.
I do, and I'm not saying that, I do think we need to be very clear about what is what for us as educators. And I think we might need to clarify this better for parents.
Also find another term. We
Okay.
might be thinking about finding another term for push-in, but I think the guide was trying to help parents understand that their children will either be pulled out of a content class, or someone will be going in to provide services.
Okay. Okay.
But you're not the first who has mentioned that, and we know exactly where you're coming from. So we're definitely addressing that at our level.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
So thank you. That was awesome.
Hi, regarding that, I kind of look at pushing more of like an umbrella. So it kind of gives me more of a broad sense of, okay, if once I'm in the classroom, I could co-teach, or I could do one-on-one, or I could do small group. And some that we work based on, what the students' needs are, the teacher needs are. So that's when I see pushing, I see it more of a broad term versus a specific.
Yeah, and just to validate everyone, it's definitely a word we're going to be cautious with and very explicit, like Tim said. And those were great examples: small group, one-on-one, co-teaching, effectively. Very good points. All right, keep your thoughts running in the chat box on the Padlet. When you come up with something, we're going to now dive into section 3. Section 3 is going to answer the question, how do I help my child succeed at school? It's basically just full of strategies and resources. Again, it will evolve over time. We will get better, but this is our start. The first part provides suggestions and activities to support reading and writing in the home. It may seem a little more elementary, but it is intended to help those newcomers and the novice students and their families support English acquisition. The next part offers online resources to help families advocate for their child. There's even a document you'll discover, hopefully if you have time, where it will guide a parent into what questions they should ask in a parent conference or a guardian conference. And finally, section 3 is going to be online resources to help them support their child to succeeding at school through graduation. So in 3 minutes, we will meet you back here. Use the slides to guide your thinking and enjoy the exploration. Next slide, Tim. Sorry, I kind of skipped that slide. Thanks. Sorry.
We encourage you to open links and go exploring.
Yes, even the links that are in the document.
We have about 30 seconds left before we start sharing out. So if you have ideas, make sure you put them into the Padlet or get ready to raise your hand.
Right. We will gather back together. And Tim, if you'll go to the next slide, we'll just kind of guide our thinking with your thoughts about section 3. I will start, and hopefully we'll have some hands raised. But I love the idea classroom teachers can utilize these strategies that are actually found in this section. Yes, we put some of those links in our instructional support on our instructional supports website for our teachers. Also, there was one that said supplement this section with links of local resources like the social services resources or community resources, and that is something that you could do for your county. And you could put the guide on your county website and those resource links beside the guide as well. But we agree, we just can't do that at the state level because it would be localized. And Tim or Satli, any that caught your eye?
Real quick, I would like, first of all, I'm going to ask Lori because I saw her hand up earlier and then we didn't.
Yes.
Just Lori, if you had something you wanted to question, and then we'll go through the other.
I apologize. That was a mistake. I lost sound and then I went out and came back in. But I hear you now, so it's good.
Okay.
Thanks
Miss
a lot.
Karen Morrison?
Yes, I just wanted to let you know that I really love this. I know that every year we do a presentation or to support the parents during the summer, to kind of prevent the summer slide. So it's really nice to see all the resources in one location. Like this year, we actually did a whole seminar for the parents in person. And so it's really nice to see all that because it's not only good throughout the year or the beginning of the year at enrollment, but also, as a reminder of, things that they can do during the summertime that, a lot of them that are not cost nothing. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're very welcome. The summer resources are extremely helpful. And someone also said in the first section, the reading and writing strategies, some have asked why aren't there math and why aren't there listening and why aren't there speaking? And again, this guide can evolve over time, but we affirm your speaking and listening today too. Others have made note of that in the past. We value that and we will be looking at adding that to the guide. There was also a recognition here to know that not all families have access to technology. Providing them library, information where they can go to their public library and maybe get on the computer and use some of these resources is very valuable as well. Tim, did I interrupt you?
You're fine. Stephen had his hand up earlier. And I just want to make sure he's okay.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's really nice because, again, with not everybody having access, but I'm in Durham and they've made a really strong effort to get hotspots to people.
Yes.
Having these resources, because traditionally, our specialists have been great with providing us with like take-home packets, but they can also be a little intimidating, or the kids, just try to kind of blow through them all at once, whereas having all these resources that they can revisit and go back to, I think is really, really going to be helpful.
I think that it's really important to remember that we as districts need to, or schools or PSUs, I guess is the term now, need to remember we can supplement this, right? We have our local resources that we need to help our families find. So I think that's important for us to each keep in mind.
Yes, and please keep adding your thoughts to the Padlet because others are going to go back into the archived presentation of today and they can see your great ideas and they are awesome. Even breaking down the information into monthly parent meetings. Monthly parent meetings is a great idea in and of itself. So Tim and Sattli, anything else or any open mics, things we need to make mention of?
I was just
I do think
adding,
this has been mentioned all week, is that what could be better in this guide and needs to be looked at in the next revision is the support for native literacy, native language literacy in the home, and to encourage parents. Although it's not stated what language we want parents supporting, we do need to make it clear that whatever language the parents can support is really important that they do. So
First
that is
language.
something that we hear and have heard.
Someone spoke.
it was me, Sattli. I added some comments in the chat. Looks like when you look at the guide in the PDF view mode, some of the links are not active. I downloaded the guide to my computer and most of them work. I see some broken, so thank you for mentioning that. If you find another one, just put it in the chat. I'll make sure to get back to the guide and make sure all links are activated and working. So thank you for mentioning that.
Thanks, Sattli. Okay, so we do have some supports on the next slide, Tim. We wanted to mention that there is a glossary, and Tim's going to take us there really quickly. This is important for all of us as specialists and leads. There's an ESL teacher or two, an instructional coach. Whenever you're in a meeting and you don't know the meaning of an acronym or a term that is being used, the glossary will cover that. If you find words that are not in the glossary, let us know and we'll add them. But this will be helpful for families. It's not in other languages yet, but you can, you'll see another support is our translation support. So we'll go there in a second, but the glossary will help define some of those terms. The translation apps that we recommend are the ones, of course, that where you can type in and get a translation back in writing, but also the audio where you speak into the device and it produces the language on the other side for the parent that's there with you face to face, so that anybody can be meeting together at any time, even though it's not going to be perfect. But the scan and translate is the most useful for this guide. So if you will put in the devices that you use, the apps that you use for translation in the chat box, we're going to copy it and paste it to the end of the presentation today. Some of you are using some that are more helpful than maybe Google Translate app, but I use it and it does all of those three things. I can type, I can speak, and I can scan with Google Translate. Also, Microsoft Translate is great for parent conferences. Talking Points is great for communicating with all of your families all at once in their own language. So please fill up the chat box with your ideas of which translation apps to use. As mentioned before, creating screencasts or videos of the information that is in the guide to support the guide is highly recommended in the first language of the families that you serve. There will be translations updated on the hub page for the parent guide. And we would love for you to post to even teacher websites, school websites, county websites, your program website. We have provided you, Tim, if you'll click on the sample, we've provided you a sample template of what your parent page, if not looks like, but might have. At the top would be the translation support because your page can't be translated in all languages. They have directions where they can, translate the page. Then you would have your quick links that would just take you down to the portions of your website. Your parent guide would be listed there. And maybe even your screencasts in different languages would be listed in that section. And then it goes on and on with somebody said local resources like community resources or family need resources. All of that can be on your website. The links that we have here that are hot go back to a DPI site or real resources for instructional purposes. The others are just fake and are there to kind of give you an idea. So those are some ideas that we had to support you in the use of the parent caregiver guide and to make it most useful. Any last comments or questions before we start reflecting again with Tim and Dr. Constantino?
Sorry, I have a question. Oh,
Go ahead.
I had a question regarding this website, the website format that you showed. You said that that's a format that's already available that we can kind of copy, or that was
You can.
that format?
You're welcome to copy it if your county approves of the type of information that is shared on that. Satley might have something to add, but yes, you can use that template or create your own. It was just to give you an idea of what might work. We're using a similar template in our county.
Okay, so just kind of use that link that you have and then show that to our digital.
Make a copy. And you could make a copy of the template and do whatever.
Yeah,
Okay,
and
thanks.
make sure that you copy Alicia's email because that's her sample template. So any questions, she will be the one that help you with that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
What page is that on of the?
It's on slide 33.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. And then Tim, it's all you and Dr. Constantino.
Okay, now we're going to take a look at some research around engaging every family.
Yes, we're going to take some time to reflect on the ways that the Parent Caregiver Guide and 5 basic principles can help us achieve our goals for today. So we're going to dig deeper into the best practices for family engagement with Tim and Dr. Constantino through 5 simple principles. We're going to take some time to post-reflect personally and in group. And we're going to discuss future strategies for engaging every ML family using the 5 principles and the Parent Caregiver Guide.
So now that we've had some time to explore the Parent Caregiver Guide and have had a chance to think of our audience and possible uses, we want to take some time to look at current family engagement research. We're going to use this research to further explore the Parent Caregiver Guide and how it might help us to live out these best practices and plan effective family engagement strategies and activities that support our multilingual families and students in not only understanding the new LED standards, but also helping them have voices and choices by being engaged in their academic success. The research we focus on today is that of Dr. Stephen Constantino. Dr. Constantino was serving students as a high school principal when he discovered research about the effects of family engagement on student learning and became convinced that this was the missing ingredient in helping all children learn. He has moved through the ranks as assistant principal, assistant superintendent, and eventually to the position of state superintendent for Virginia, and currently owns a company dedicated to family engagement. He currently travels the globe sharing best practice in family engagement that result in increased academic achievement for all students. Through his life's work and research, Dr. Constantino discovered 5 simple principles of family engagement. And so Dr. Constantino's 5 simple principles are these: to create a school culture that engages every family, communicate effectively and builds relationships, to build family efficacy, to engage every family in decision-making, and engage the greater community. And he looked at it as a logic model, meaning, and his logic model is up here in the right-hand corner, and you can see that he looks at it kind of as a cycle, but also that it does start with, first you have to create the culture, then you communicate effectively and develop and build relationships. And then once you've done that, you can build family efficacy. And once you've done that, you can engage every family in decision making. And once you've done that, you can engage the greater community. And then that cycle builds upon itself, right? It continues. So and so we're going to kind of talk a little bit about what each of these principles means. And then we're going to ask for your ideas about how do we take that principle and put it into effect in our schools. And so we're going to ask for those ideas to be put in the chat so that we all walk away with some new ideas that we can share, because your brains, as a collective, we have more resources than we do with if I just gave you a couple of ideas that we've done. So I just want you, so Dr. Constantino recommends that our first step is to establish a school culture that invites family engagement. And we want to make sure we're saying school culture, we're not thinking about family culture. And when a school culture truly looks to engage every family, everyone is looking for ways to create opportunities for engagement. And as we talk about this, we really have to think, do we really want to engage every family? Does everybody in our building really want to engage every family? How does the word every make us feel? Does that feel like too big of an ask? Can we think of families that might be challenging to engage? But what Dr. Constantino says is that if we don't build the culture of engagement, where we truly want every family to be engaged, we're not going to create an environment that all families feel welcome. So we really have to build the culture and address it as a school, as an issue. Because as a teacher, I might be able to engage individual families, but if other people in the building are not interested in building that relationship or creating that culture, we could be creating situations where others are turning the families off while I'm trying to engage them. So we use the icon of Pac-Man to kind of get to this point. If we don't address the culture of family engagement in the whole school, any strategy we attempt to use might be quickly thwarted. The first attempt at engagement that is met by an unwelcoming staff member can change the relationship of between the family and the school. So Peter Rucker uses the comment, culture eats strategy for breakfast. So we can throw out all these great ideas of things we could do, but if parents don't feel truly welcome when they walk into the school, then they may, it's not gonna last. It's not gonna be sustainable. So some ways in which we can build that culture is to invite multilingual families to help plan and carry out school events and activities. And there's also opportunities to get multilingual family feedback. So we could use surveys or tools, or surveys or walkthroughs or focus group with our multilingual families to find out how they feel about being engaged in our schools. I also want to share that the book, Engage Every Family, which is Dr. Constantino's book, has surveys and tools that schools can use to help evaluate the culture of your school in regards to family engagement. I will note that the door prizes we mentioned has a link to Dr. Constantino's website, and there you can put in your email address, and then you can access some of his surveys and tools that he uses. So at this time, what I would like for us to do is utilizing chat, be thinking about what strategies or activities you can imagine that support creating a culture that engages every family. And how might we be able to use the parent or caregiver guide to support these ideas?
Please put your ideas in the chat so others can
walk away with them.
Walk away with it. Even an open mic at this point, anybody that has a particular idea. We had a participant share earlier in the week where she had a dual language class, and she had a mother to come in and read in Spanish and the student read in English. And she said that it changed the whole atmosphere for the rest of the school year, even, I think she mentioned. And that mother told her that it was the first time she'd ever been invited to participate in her child's, education directly. Other ideas?
So somebody mentions administrator must take the lead and get all the staff invited. And that is an absolutely crucial point. If this is the work you want to do, you need to get your administrators involved because really they set the tone for the building. So if your principal doesn't really want families involved, it's going to be really hard to make those steps. I mean, it's not to say that you can't do the work, but it's not going to be sustainable school wide. So it's really important that we take the opportunity to discuss why we would want to do this. And Dr. Constantino's his very easy answer to that is this improves academic achievement for all kids, right? If we're trying to engage every family, academic achievement goes up. And there are some great ideas about inviting families in and doing reading nights, EL family nights, international fairs, really good ideas in here, folks. And
Collaborating with classroom teachers, yes.
All right, I'm going to go on just so that we can get through all the ideas and then give you an opportunity to share a little bit more deeply. So his next principle was to communicate effectively and develop relationships. We need to think about what are the opportunities for meaningful two-way communication in our schools. And this principle, Dr. Constantino argues for intentionally creating an inviting environment. Meaningful two-way dialogue is intentionally planned to build trust. Building trust is crucial for developing strong relationships that allow for meaningful engagement. The schools use multiple means to provide opportunities for families to engage. Of course, in our context, we must meaningfully plan to communicate across languages and cultures from an asset-based approach. So some of the ideas he suggests are things like student culture or interest surveys, making a positive first phone call or meeting, no matter what, the first contact is positive. Effective use of translation resources and devices. And I'll just say something about in just a minute. To use parents as volunteers and helpers to be visible and present. And then also at school events, highlight or spotlight families' talents and knowledge during school events. As far as effective use of translation resources and devices, we know from our roles that if I'm talking from the Office of Civil Rights, interpretation and translation should be by trained people, and that is important, especially for particular types of meetings like IEPs and whatnot. But also, when we're looking from the lens of trying to engage every family, there are opportunities where parents just show up or somebody comes in, and we need to use the resources at hand because those resources are stronger now than they've ever been to communicate to families in ways that we can. And especially recognizing that we have families from multiple different languages. We had the issue of we got brand new Afghan refugees into our school system late this year, and we don't have any people who could translate Pashto or Dari in our community. So we were relying on the resources we could find to make sure we could communicate with those families. So with that, I would encourage you to think about what are your strategies or activities? What strategies or activities can you imagine that support communicating effectively and building relationships with every multilingual family? And could the parent or caregiver guide be a help in accomplishing that plan? Please feel free to share those ideas in chat. I have seen a number of ideas around things like class dojo, talking points.
The positive first phone call works for us, especially if there are students who are going through a lot of trauma. Maybe there's some behavior problems and the content teacher or the ESL teacher wants to make that negative phone call immediately. We find something that student is doing well and we brag on that student. We only talk about that. And sometimes that fixes everything literally. The student comes back to school a completely different child. They feel welcome, respected, and understood. But it's a great first start. And it truly does take a village. Someone said it is a village approach. Truly.
So somebody asked about student surveys. Student surveys to get we want to hear what they think about how the school feels to them. So, and it doesn't have to be Dr. Constantino's survey, but there are many different opportunities out there. For those of you who are accredited or go through Cognia accreditation, they have surveys on culture and climate that can be used. So there are lots of different ideas out there, but it's really important for us to get a pulse on how our students feel about being in school and how the school treats them.
The countywide equity team was a great idea, and also involving your student support services. Great ideas.
I invite you to keep going. I'm going to keep going so that we have a little bit more time to share out these ideas in a minute. And then in his original version, the third principle is building family efficacy. Efficacy is the power to produce an effect. So building efficacy empowers families to improve learning in the home. So in his original version, Dr. Constantino referred to this principle as empowering families. In his updated version, he refers to this as building efficacy. He felt that some people interpreted the word empowerment as creating an image of making families militant or activists rather than building the collaboration within the school. But this principle focuses on building capacity within the family to support learning and meaningfully participate in the decision-making in the educational environment. This was a key idea that was considered when developing the Parent Caregiver Guide to the ELD standards. So some suggested activities that could help are parents or caregivers participate and help develop students' learning plans and help monitor and assess their programs. Also, the idea of trainings and school practices to help families take a more proactive role in their child's education. I'd like to highlight some specific needs that our multilingual families may have in this area. We really need to be conscious of some cultural considerations that can impact this. For example, some families may have not had much interaction with formal education, so interacting with the school can feel very scary. I'll use the word. We need to really consider how can we make the school an inviting place for them, and how can we first reach out to them in a way to make them comfortable so that they feel comfortable to connect to the school. Some families would also want to be careful about, asking particular questions or making statements that might appear to be to be questioning the school's authority, or they may interpret as disrespecting educators. So we need to take into consideration, how do we help parents frame discussions and understand what we hope they would contribute. But this is why the logic model focuses first on building trust, because building trust that, through that two-way communication is really important so that we can have the more challenging conversations with families when the time comes. So what strategies or activities can you imagine that build efficacy for families engaging in their child's education? And how might the Parent Caregiver Guide for ELD help us accomplish this?
We had one that shared building interpreter capacity through the community. We have been able to do that through Chinese families that serve at our our university in our county. And it's our most effective year to date where we've been able to support some of our Chinese speaking.
So somebody mentioned doing home visits for bilingual pre-K students. I found that when I worked in New York, I worked with a lot of refugee families, and that was an especially helpful way to start connecting to families. Is just, they felt more comfortable with me once I actually showed up at their home. But I would also say in this day and age, we have to be careful about how we do that sometimes. So
And Lori Pender is one of our EL support team members too. Shout out to Lori Pender. And she was just sharing that visiting their family businesses, their restaurants. I know some colleagues that have actually tutored there after school, like going into their community, maybe not as their teacher, they couldn't tutor, but later on staying connected to the family and tutoring.
I like the idea of focus groups to determine, because sometimes people are more comfortable sharing ideas with a group rather than just, being questioned on their own.
We had one raised hand, Glorine.
Yes, thank you. Last year, we had a chance to have one-on-one individual parent meetings with parents, and I had another ESL teacher with me at that moment, and we were able to interact with parents and know what resources they had at home from one-on-one time that they have for their child when they go back home to access to internet or access to TV and knowing how to display the closed captions. So knowing everything that they have at home allowed us to give them ideas on how to support their children at home. And this is when we start giving them, instead of just sending them the letter and letting them know, hey, your child is eligible for services, we let them know what their scores are and what their strengths are. And if we know that listening is at a developing or at expanding level, then these are things that you can do while they're at home. Since they're able to understand what they listen to, you can actually turn on the closed caption in English while they're watching any program at home. And you will see that there is not only the listening portion, but also the reading happening at the same time. And you can see as a family, you can have this time if you have that one-on-one time with your child. So knowing what they have already at home, from even if it's just one-on-one time that they have with them, interactions, like let them know about stories that you learned when you were growing as a child back home, and have your child listen to you. And when they come to school, we're going to be talking about this, and this is called oral tradition because it's a tradition. You're sharing this with your offspring, and when they come to school, this is what we're talking about as well in English language arts classes, which in our homes are called Spanish language arts classes, or when we are learning our own languages in our countries. So when we have that interaction, the face-to-face interaction, I know that it is time investing time on this, and it may seem like a very large task to do, but we get so much more from them, from the interaction that we have with them one-on-one. And when we finish our meetings, we tend to give them, now we're starting to give them like the notes of our meeting in both English and Spanish at that time. So when they go home, they have it at hand. Okay, what is it that we talked about? What are some of the tools that we discussed about it? I can really try to get this done at home as well. And a follow-up call, maybe after 2 weeks or 3 weeks, during the first quarter, the beginning of second quarter, to double check if this is happening at home, if they liked it this way or not. We're talking about over 198 students at a school. So it is something that can be done, even if it has to be during the first days of work days or first days of school as well. I just
What you're describing is accountability on our part, for making sure that we are empowering and engaging those families.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't taking notes while you were talking, but everything she just said, take down. Those are great ideas. Very powerful.
So, and I appreciate that because that's actually going to transition us right into the next point, where Dr. Constantino suggests we engage every family in decision making.
Yep.
The school creates opportunities for families to lead and participate in school learning, consultation, planning, and events. The school makes sure families and students have representation in relevant decision making. For our multilingual learners, this could include the development of their, sorry folks, I have company all of a sudden. um, hold on. So, sorry, I apologize for that. But for multilingual learners, this could look like including them in the development of their English learner or multilingual learner plan. Although Title III only requires notification, opportunities like Learn we're expressing is a great opportunity to bring families in a meaningful way. So some of the ways that we can do this in our schools, our families lead and participate in planning school events. We want to make sure our leadership teams are representative of our school's population. So do we have multilingual families representative on our leadership teams? And also getting community organizations that represent family interests and needs involved in our schools as resources and resources and collaborators. So kind of think of what strategies or activities can you imagine that could assist families in collaborating and developing plans for their child's education. Somebody did mention parents as part of the school improvement team. That's great. I am going to just kind of go on to, please, if you have ideas, put your ideas in the chat. I'm going to go on to the fifth one so we can move on to our opportunities to share in a smaller group. The final principle is that families engage the greater community. So the school can be the focal point in the community to bring together resources. The school makes partnerships with individuals and organizations in work and community places to take on roles mentoring students. This can be through student internships or work-based learning opportunities. We want to create opportunities for students to see people who look like them or who are from similar backgrounds in different roles in our community. Partnerships are made with other learning institutions, other schools, community colleges, institutes of higher learning, and other training providers. Schools look for opportunities to create adult learning and community development courses to be run within the building. Somebody mentioned, in the past, we've had opportunities where actually the community college has offered ESL classes in some of our local schools. And this could look like creating and or advertising adult learning opportunities available to parents, engaging partnerships with other organizations and institutions, and collaborating with community workforce in creative ways. I share the idea that, several years back, we had a school that was decommissioned, and so we had available space, and we actually were able to use that to create our welcome center for our international families. And in that building, we also provided office space to Central Latino, the United Hmong Association. We had the Conflict Resolution Center there, the Learning Resource Center, which provided resources for students with learning difficulties. And so it was a way to get families to come in, get connected to school, but also connect to the larger agencies in our area. So what kind of strategies or activities can you imagine that could help your school or district identify and engage in community organizations that support your families? And how could we use the parent or caregiver guide to help in accomplishing those plans? Oh, and somebody mentioned CTE courses. Yay, CTE! So with that, what we're going to do is kind of take the next few minutes to reflect and respond. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm stepping on Alicia's toes.
No worries. But it is time to reflect on everything that we've heard from Dr. Constantino and Tim, your ideas from the Parent Caregiver Guide this morning. We want you to take the next 3 minutes to reflect, do a post-reflection. Have your, and so if you will go back to your artifact document, we're going to take you there, but have your answers evolved, over time. So if you will click to the next slide, Tim. We would like for you to go to your personalized artifact document, open that back up, and begin answering the post-reflection questions at the bottom. What do we receive? What do they receive? And what are your future strategies for engaging every family after being able to collaborate today? And we will meet you back here in 3 minutes or so. Tim will guide us. We're reflecting as well. Give everybody about 30 seconds or so to finish out your thoughts. Okay, so Tim, if you'll take us to our breakout discussions page, we're going to guide everyone as to how they are to get into their breakout session so that you can discuss your reflection with each other. You are going to see an image for the breakout room that will appear on your screen and Zotli will explain it in a little more detail, but you'll just click join when you see that. And once you're in your room, begin sharing your reflections. What do we receive? What do they receive? And what are your new strategies or your future strategies for engaging every family? And while you're listening, please remember to jot down their ideas on your artifacts page under the column future strategies so that when you share your artifacts page, everybody can capture these new ideas and we're all engaging more. And if you'll click Tim, it will also let you know how many seconds are left for the session. So Satli, we'll turn it over to you.
Okay, so as Alicia was saying, you're going to see notification asking you to join. If you have joined the session from your phone, you might not see the breakout rooms, so you can stay in the main room and then we have the conversation with those in the main room, so don't worry about it. But then the other ones joining from a laptop, you will see the notification. And Alicia and team will be able to jump through the different groups to join in case you have any other questions. So I'm gonna click the notification.
Folks, you're going to have about 6 or 7 minutes to do the breakout. So think about giving everybody about 30 seconds to 45 seconds to share some thoughts, and then you can rejoin around.
And I see Tammy from our math section has joined, so thank you. You can join one of the sessions if you want, or you can hang out with Alicia and team and maybe share something if you want to. So just so you know that you're not assigned to one of the sessions. So we love having you here, Tammy. If you didn't see the notification, maybe sometimes it hides behind the main screen. If you minimize that screen, you will see it. Or in the participants panel, you should be able to see main meeting and breakout sessions, and then you will see the join button there. Because I see some of you are still here. And if you want to start, you can unmute and have that conversation in this main room as well. So I'll be quiet.
So for those of you that are still in this room, like Maria, Raimundo, Melissa Perez, Lucia Jordan, if you guys want to try to join a smaller group, Sally can help you figure out how to join your breakout session. But if you guys would like to start a discussion here, just turn on your video and open your mic. Again, what do we receive? What do they receive? And what are some of our future strategies for our counties, for our families, for our departments, for our teachers? We want you to feel free. If Rebecca Peeler is in the house, hello, miss you. Jason Newberger, good to see you.
Yay. Alicia, when you want to send them the 1 minute warning, please let me know. I didn't set my timer, so please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Probably in about 3 to 4 minutes, I would say. And Tim will probably guide us as well, but definitely give them 3 more minutes, I would
Okay.
think. Does anyone here want to open their mic and discuss anything? You might actually be at a bathroom break too, so don't want to force. But if not, I'm going to visit some of the breakout sessions. It's good to be with y'all.
Satli, can we give them a 1-minute warning?
Yes, sir.
Karen, your hand is raised.
Yes, I had a question. So we've learned a lot in this week, and it's really good to see the common language and how we have this, the standards and the clarity that there is behind this is amazing. But my question is, like right now we're learning from the bottom up, so we are the front line. So what is the state's expectation for each school district? How is this going to get pushed top down? Like what am I expecting to see my school district do this year with this information? How are they going to disseminate this information? Because I mean, obviously it's not just my responsibility as a teacher, right? So what are the administrators going to see? What does it look like at that level?
Karen,
Go ahead, Tim.
no, I was, do you have a few minutes after our session that we can talk a little bit about that? Because I would like to kind of bring us to a close. Is that all right for you?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. All right.
That was a great question.
Yeah. And I want to honor it, but I also don't want to keep people past their time. Alicia.
Yeah. And we're actually going to address that in a second too, but we hope that you were able, through your breakout session, through the time to reflect today, that you feel like you've been able to at least start exploring the Parent Caregiver Guide to discover its contents and its potential support in engaging every multilingual learner and their families. Also, an opportunity to reflect on best practices, Dr. Constantino's 5 simple principles to engage every family, and develop strategies based on those 2 things, the 5 principles and the Parent Caregiver Guide, that will help you engage every family when you head back.
So as we close our session today, we would love for you to complete the sentence frame as your ticket out and put it in the chat box. My first next step to empower engaged families will be blank because blank. Satli, would you put the sentence frame in the chat box? We would also like for you to join us at 3:30 for office hours. It is this afternoon. The link is right here. We hope you'll be able to answer the remainder of your questions. And please email us or reach out for support as you return to your schools and continue the work of empowering, engaging your families. We'd also like to remind you that there is a PD evaluation. The link is on this slide for you to complete for us. And we really appreciate the evaluation information because it helps us in preparing for future presentations. And I also would be remiss if we did not share with you your door prizes.
Yes. And so our door prizes for today are free teaching tolerance film kits that educators can purchase for their classrooms. We've also got Dr. Constantino's website, Engage Every Child, Family, and Teacher Every Day. You can find resources there. There's also free art posters and downloads for educators from the National Gallery of Art. You've got a door prize from Sat Lee. She found free downloads of family engagement core competencies from NAFSCE. We've also put the Putumayo music that you were listening as you came in. This is just a list of their free playlists that you can play in the background of your classrooms, your office, your PDs, your PowerPoints. But finally, a stress pack for you might be the 25 free food days that you need to put on your calendar right now. Next month is a free Slurpee from 7-Eleven, and if you dress up like a cow, you can get a free meal from Chick-fil-A. So there are a couple of ideas there. And as we do close, we do hope that you feel empowered and engaged yourselves, and that you go back and are able to create a happier school culture for all with less fear for all. It is what we hope to have achieved today. Tim.
Hey, if you dress up like a cow and go get free food from Chick-fil-A, would you please tweet pictures?
Yes, and put hashtag NCELD22.
Thank you, Alicia and Tim.
Yeah. And we love your comments. My next step to empower and engage families is training sessions for family leaders on advocating for their students and engaging with the school system. That's awesome. It's already being planned, they said. They're already at work with their Latino families. Thank you, guys. Have a great rest of the day, and we hope to see you in the office hour.